Thank you for being here this morning. We welcome you here to this outstanding venue for the 13th Annual Red Ribbon Breakfast. We appreciate you taking the time this morning to be here. My name is Rick Wells. I am the chair of the Manatee County Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition, and once again, I welcome you. Our thanks to the Pirates and their venue. They have allowed us to be here for several years now. It's a beautiful place. They take care of us. They allow us to come in and decorate, and just the hospitality is much appreciated. So thank you so much. At this time, I want to recognize the Manatee County Youth Commission and Coalition. If they would please stand, all the members of this fine, outstanding group. These are our young people in action here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. The objective of Red Ribbon Week is to acknowledge and to honor DEA agent Enrique Kiki Camarena, who was abducted, brutally tortured, and killed by a drug cartel in Mexico, and the importance of our community to stand up against drugs in our community, to fight for change, to allow our young people to be able to go to school without having to worry about drugs being pushed in their face, without having to go to the movies without drugs being around them at all times. These young people here stand up for what is right. They work hard with us. They work side by side with us. And it's so refreshing to see our youth and our community working hard to make this a safer place. Thank you so much. Today we celebrate community collaborations between law enforcement, fire, EMS, healthcare providers, the school system, and many others in the fight to make our community a safer and place to live for all of us and our children as well. We would like to thank the Cedar Hammock Fire Department for choosing us as the charity of choice when they participated in the Wawa Hoagie making contest. As you can see, they donated that $1,000 to us. This was a contest between them and law enforcement. Law enforcement did not win, but I think it's important to tell you that law enforcement did win the eating contest that was held shortly thereafter. We pretty much slammed that down quickly. Thank you to all that wrote an example of a community, a coalition, collaboration on the ribbon and hung it from the line here this morning. We thank you for that. At this time, if you would all stand, we would like to introduce you to the Bradenton Police Department Honor Guard for the posting of the colors. This time we have Robert Lyons, Manatee County High School Junior, Chair of the Manatee County Youth Commission, for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll have Pastor Stan Pavkovich, chaplain of the Cedar Hammock Fire Department, and also the head pastor of the Church of the Cross. Please come up for the invocation.
Well, let's bow our heads. Father, I realize that as we gather here today, we come from different backgrounds, different faiths, different perspectives, but we all have in common a love for our community and our youth. And I pray that you would grant us wisdom to instill in our youth and a sense of community, a sense of purpose. And I thank you, God, for each person, each family represented here today, God, and I pray a blessing upon them. I pray, Lord, that you meet their every spiritual, every physical, every emotional need. And I pray all these things in your all-powerful name. Amen.
You may be seated. Thank you. At this time, I would like to call Clarissa. If you could come up, please. How are you? Thank you for being here.
Hello, I'm Clarissa Palmer. I'm a senior at Manti High School, and I will present the proclamation. Whereas excessive alcohol consumption accounts for an average of 79,000 deaths per year in the U.S. and is now the third leading preventable cause of death. And whereas alcohol continues to be the drug of choice for all children in Manatee, and whereas underage drinking costs the citizens of Florida $3.1 billion, and whereas research shows IQ drops of up to 8 points at age 38 when regular marijuana use begins during the teenage years, and whereas the potency of marijuana has risen since 1983 by 151%, and as much as 700% depending on particular strands. And whereas prescription and illicit opiate abuse continues to plague our community, leading to a sharp rise in Narcan administration from 31 in August 2013 to 148 in August of 2015, with July having 281. And whereas solving today's complex health and social issues effectively and equitably is beyond the purview of any one agency, organization, or discipline. And whereas working collaboratively represents a key opportunity for communities to create significant, substantial improvements in health and equity outcomes. And whereas the Red Ribbon Campaign was established by Congress in 1988 to honor the memory of Enrique Kiki Camarena, a DEA officer murdered by a marijuana drug cartel in the line of duty. And Red Ribbon is the nation's largest substance abuse prevention campaign and calls a committee to action. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the week of October 23rd through the 31st of 2015 shall be known, designated, and set aside as Red Ribbon Week. Can I write this down?
Yes, you can. I just want y'all to know that Clarissa is the co-chair of the Manatee County Youth Commission. She's also Manatee High School senior. She just read that entire proclamation on her tippy toes. I thought that takes a lot of skill. So I'm going to put this down for her.
Okay. Thank you for all that you have done in our community to honor Kiki Camarena. Please support Red Ribbon Week activities in your schools and businesses. The history of the Manatee County Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition is rich and varied. I would now like to introduce MCSAC board member Ms. Lynn Anderson. Lynn works for Manatee County Government Community Services Department and is a human services analyst and manages agreements with nonprofit agencies who receive funding from the county. She started with our coalition in 2002 and is here to provide us with a history of MCSAC and our community collaborations. Thank you, Lynn.
For those of you who don't know me, being nervous in front of a large group is something I do very well. But Jessica asked me to speak today about the coalition's history and its collaborations, how we got started and how we got to where we are today. When I joined the coalition, it was still in the flip chart stage of mapping out community strategies. The group that formed the coalition was called the Community Evaluation Committee, and sitting at the table those early meetings were Centerstone, formerly known as Manatee Glens, Boys and Girls Club, Just for Girls, Family Resources, the Sheriff's Office, the school boards, Safe and Drug-Free Schools, United Community Centers, and the Children's Services Department of Manatee County Government. Many of these partners are still working with us today. These service providers witnessed every day the effects of substance abuse on Manatee County families. They had a vision of a drug-free community, and they set the wheels in motion. Each month, we progressed a little further, and our strategic plan was taking shape. The group was a unified front with many diverse partners working to achieve what we thought was needed. We decided on a name, created a mission, and had a list of goals we felt were attainable. Our total operating budget at the time was $6.35. We took up collections at meetings so we could participate in events where we could promote the coalition and by community buy-in. The coalition held our first Red Ribbon Breakfast in 2003 at the Civic Center. We had to raise the funds we needed, but it was worth the effort because it gave us exposure in the community and our collaborations expanded. Our mission statement and goals reflected the needs of the community. We established bylaws, policies and procedures, and membership guidelines. We received letters of support from area agencies, local government, and law enforcement to help in our efforts to secure grant monies and fulfill our mission. Coalition leaders knew we needed to become sustainable and seek funding, but we weren't quite ready because we didn't have a fiscal agent or a grant writer. Soon we formed a collaboration with Central Florida Behavioral Health Network, and with their help, we applied for our first grant. Thus began our journey into the great funding abyss. Small grants were awarded, and a light at the end of the tunnel appeared. In 2006, a new partnership was formed with a new coalition member who just happened to be a first-rate grant writer, Rita Chamberlain. Rita introduced us to the wonderful world of logic models and what they mean to us. At last, we were moving in the right direction and had the help we needed. Community recognition was made apparent when I picked up a check from the Sheriff's Office, courtesy of confiscated drug monies. Very fitting, and now we were somebody. As of September, our account balance was $17,568. 2006, we also received a grant that helped us facilitate a retreat in December. Many community agencies gathered to discuss the issues of substance abuse and misuse, gaps in services for the community, barriers we faced in regard to public awareness and support. Feedback from this retreat was very positive and was encouragement to continue with our efforts. With the help of community partners, we began to plan our own events, like the Freedom Fest at GT Bray. A website and logo were created. We had office space, an official MCSAC sign, tables, chairs, and tablecloths for events, a camera to capture moments for posterity, youth involvement with the coalition, a collaboration with MFHI at USF for needs assessments and data collection, billboards throughout the community for parents who host campaigns, a name that was becoming very familiar in the community, and the list goes on and on. Suffice it to say, we had inventory and street cred. In 2008, we were awarded the DFC grant and now had the ability to hire a full-time staff person. Rita helped us with our search, and we connected with Sharon. Sharon ran a coalition in Ohio, had written grants, and knew the ropes. This was the best long-distance phone call I ever made. The forward momentum with Sharon and Rita hasn't stopped yet. Posters were placed in county buses to promote the coalition. Beautiful rack cards that stated our mission was created. We received more requests to participate in events, and we became a 501c3. We continued to grow, and the coalition became a leader and a champion of the pill mill ordinance. Task forces were formed. Drug kiosks were placed in local law enforcement agencies. Manatee County Youth Commission taken under our wing. We had a voice in Washington, D.C., a respected coalition in the state, and more importantly, a voice in Manatee County that has been heard. All of these accomplishments would not have been possible without the collaboration of our partners who diligently work beside us every day. Through the years, more collaborations have been formed. The Pirates and Marauders, Walgreens, Lecom, Bradenton PD, Holmes Beach PD, Palmetto PD, Bradenton Beach PD, EMS, Cedar Hammock Fire and Rescue, the Manatee County Health Department, Hanley Center, METV, Healthy Start Coalition, and other coalitions throughout the state. And if you do need a complete list of all of our partners, you'll have to see staff after the breakfast. We have jumped through hoops, had setbacks and kickback from naysayers, all of which are a testament to the fact that we have arrived, and through it all, our community partners were there to help us flourish. 6 years ago, coalition staff moved into the county building. They soon became respected occupants and gained the help and support of county commissioners, county administration, code enforcement, neighborhood services, community services, and veteran services. The coalition has been recognized as a leader, has proven its credibility and stability, and the coalition is a strong supporter of our partners. The arrival of Dr. Jessica Spencer brought us a whole new set of collaborations such as legislators, politicians, first responders, and connections outside the state. Allie and Merib have increased our capabilities to form more collaborations with people who have the same passion as we all do, a drug-free Manatee. Coalition staff has knowledge, experience, and talent. They are informed, passionate, and have a willingness to go the extra mile to make the coalition a leader and a partner to others. The coalition is a team with many players and fans. My time as a volunteer has been well spent. It has been educational, rewarding, and has offered me several lifetime friendships. Our community partners have been faithful, encouraging, engaging, and have helped to move this coalition to where it is today. Thank you all to our staff, members, Board of Trustees, and a special thank you to our many community partners that we honor today. Without you, we wouldn't be here.
Put this back up for the tall people. All right, thank you, Lynn. We appreciate everything that you have done for us as well. You have been a vital part of the coalition for several years now, and basically, there's no way that we have achieved the things that we have achieved without you, Lynn. So thank you very much. Another change to the coalition, as you can see, we have a new logo now. If you look on the ribbon rack there, that is the new logo, hand in hand. Partnerships, community collaboration, that's what we're about. We have also changed our name slightly to Manatee County Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. We believe that that was an important name change, that we put prevention in our name to show how committed we are to ridding drugs out of our community and helping those that cannot help themselves. Now on to our keynote speaker. Major Connie Shingledecker is a 38-year veteran of law enforcement with the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. She began her career in 1977 and has worked in various areas within the agency. She was assigned to the Criminal Investigation Division for over 10 years, during which time she investigated and supervised the investigations of crimes against children. Major Shingledecker has been the Investigative Bureau Chief over criminal investigations, child protective investigations, and special investigations, narcotics and vice, for the past 15 years. Connie is very active in the community and instructs in the areas of domestic violence, sexual and physical child abuse, death investigations, stress recognition, ethics and courtesy, sudden unexpected infant death investigation, crime scene reenactment and reconstruction, and juvenile delinquency. She is a member of the following organizations: the Manatee County Child Death Review Team, Manatee County Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team, Children's Guardian Fund Board, Leadership Manatee Alumni, the Family Safety Alliance, and the Manatee County Juvenile Justice Strategic Planning Committee, and the Bradenton Kiwanis Club. I can assure you that Connie has the same fire and passion for her job as she did 38 years ago. and we are very fortunate to have her with us at the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. So at this time, I would like to introduce to you your keynote speaker for this morning, Major Connie Shingeldecker.
We're going to talk about a little bit about Kiki Camarena. You've already heard a little bit about him, but here's a face to the name. So first of all, Kiki was born in Mexico, but became a United States citizen and a Marine. But he had a dream, and that dream was to be a law enforcement officer. So not only was he a law enforcement officer, but he went on to go to work for the DEA. And he was working undercover in Guadalajara, Mexico, on a very involved drug cartel, where he uncovered a farm that had 2,500 acres of marijuana that was growing, an $8 billion industry. And he was instrumental in having that farm destroyed. So the drug cartel, in order to get even with Kiki, had him abducted in broad daylight off the streets after he had lunch with his wife, taken to that farm, and tortured for 30 hours, and then brutally murdered. His pilot was also abducted separately and murdered as well. And so, therefore, a long battle began in trying to locate those individuals that were responsible. There was a movie that was made about his life and this situation that occurred. And if any of you have watched it, then you'll remember that this is what his story was all about. So we're reminded today that 30 years ago, Kiki Camarena lost his life in this battle against drugs. And so what's happening today? First of all, in order for us to talk about what's happening in Manatee County today, we kind of have to go back in time. I can remember in the 80s, crack cocaine coming on the scene. Some of you will shake in your head and you go, yes, I can remember that. I can remember babies being born drug addicted to crack cocaine as well. And I'm seeing a cycle that's unfortunately repeating itself. So let's look at where we came. When we're looking at how we got to where we are today, we have to look at the 2011 perspective of oxycodone or prescription medication abuse. And Florida led the nation. That's Florida on the right in the dispensement of oxycodone. It was ridiculous. We had really no way to protect ourselves, and people were coming from all over the country to the state of Florida to purchase their drugs. 41,285,000 prescription medications dispensed in Florida. So how did Manatee County look back then? Well, we didn't look too terrible compared to the rest of the state in oxycodone deaths by county. That's us. We're kind of in the pink, the lower quartile of deaths attributed to that. Same thing with hydrocodone. We didn't stand out too much at all. I wish I could say the same thing for today. So right now we have a heroin epidemic. So this is just a little bit of information about heroin. First of all, no currently accepted medical treatment or use in the United States. So it's not used medically. It's a very, very powerful drug, and it's abused. Kind of interesting that in 1898, the Bayer Pharmaceutical Company of Germany had it as a treatment for tuberculosis and a remedy for morphine addiction. Interesting. So this is kind of what it looks like. You can see it's got powder, black tar, liquid, and pill form. Now we move to fentanyl. Why are we talking about fentanyl? Because heroin and fentanyl have been combined, and the deaths in our county are attributed to many of these kinds of combined drugs. So it does currently have an accepted medical use, but it's 80 to 100 times more potent than morphine, 40 to 50 times more potent than 100% grade heroin. That's how strong it is. So you put that with heroin and you've got a real problem. This is what it looks like. Most people are most familiar with the gel-used patch of fentanyl. So when people are needing some pain relief, oftentimes they will have a patch. And that's been very abused when people will use the patch, multiple patches on themselves at one time, or get the contents outside of the patch. Then you have the powder and the liquid. So these are the potential dangers, and certainly overdose is very high when we have fentanyl involved. So how did it come into existence here? It's actually been around in the United States since 2005 to 2007, and a resurgence beginning in the Boston area in 2010. We were somewhat protected down here in Florida because we had the pill mills. So when we had that legislation that was talked about earlier, where we shut down those pill mills, we ended up with a void. And as a result of that void, in came the heroin, and with it, the fentanyl. So not just any heroin's going to do. Unfortunately, these folks that are addicted are looking for the best high that they can get, and fentanyl fits that bill with heroin. So it's cheap. If we can think back to the crack cocaine days, that was the cheap person's drug. This is the cheap person's drug. Prescription pills now are really, really hard to get. And you can see that heroin is cheap. So it's the substitution. So what's going on in Manatee County? These are the overdose deaths just for the year 2015. 536 overdoses, with 55 of them being fatal. 53 individuals reported with repeat overdoses, having overdosed more than one time. Certainly, we've got a very high representation of our white population abusing this drug. 530 of those were white, 5 black, and 1 other. And certainly more males than females, 353 or 65.9% to 34.1% in the female population. So how old are these people that are doing this? Well, they're between 20 and 40, the highest populations. So if you combine those two, you're dealing with 77% of our population of overdose victims are between those ages. The youngest victim being 15 and the oldest being 67. And certainly the deaths are consistent with that same population. So let's talk a little bit about Narcan, which is how we can save people from overdose. And we have, to the tune of over 1,200 Narcan doses administered in the year 2015 to date. It's higher than that, but that's about an approximation. You can see 940 through August with a very expensive price tag. $74,420 for those 940 Narcan doses. So when EMS shows up on scene and it's not obvious what's happened, or it may be obvious, with needles and track marks and so forth, they're using Narcan and they're being successful. As you can see, we've had a lot of success in saving people's lives. They then transport these individuals to the emergency room for evaluation. And we now can Marchman Act if these individuals refuse transport. So who's getting Narcan? As you can see, that same population. And our highest month was in July of 2015, when we Narcan 281 doses. It's very expensive. So as we talk about the faces of substance abuse, I want you to know that it affects so many people. You might be sitting here today going, well, how does this really affect me? Why do I need to be concerned about this? Families are affected. There are adult children whose parents are in their 60s and 70s and have no end in sight to help their adult children through this circumstance. They're mortgaging their houses. They're just, the resources are not available to these people. Many of them don't have the insurance to provide their children. They don't have the funds to get them into rehabilitation, and they're losing them. Their children are affected. So we're going to look at those faces as we go through this, real faces of real people. But neighborhoods are affected. It's not safe. People don't feel safe in their neighborhoods, and our community is affected. When we see the newspaper articles and we're national news, how does that affect us as a community? How do we feel about ourselves as a community? I'm sure that if this woman knew that she was going to look like this, she never would have done the drugs that she did. But she was a meth user. So that's her before, and that's her after. I know there's some young people here today, and I hope you look at that, and I hope that you will take note of that, because it takes a toll on your body when you're using drugs. Her first arrest, and then 4 years later, a prostitution, drug-abusing woman that had the rest of her life in front of her. So that's two of the faces of substance abuse just in Manatee County alone. So how does it affect children growing up in these environments? Well, it does. It does terribly. It affects them with neglect, because these parents that are addicted, they can't take care of themselves, let alone take care of their own children. So many of them are neglected, abused. Home invasion robberies. Weapons and drugs are accessible. Maybe they're manufacturing or growing things in their house, or their meth labs. And this is an example of a father that was released from prison for drug sale, had a firearm in his residence. Now he's not supposed to, but he had one in his residence for protection, and his 12-year-old son obtained that firearm. 13-year-old cousin shot and killed him. Father was charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, can never get his son back. Children living in these homes through no choice of their own. This on the left was a recent home invasion robbery where the parents that were selling drugs were murdered in the presence of their children. Something that those kids are never going to get over. This is an older case that I was involved in a home invasion where the parents were tied up, they threw water on them, and then they tased them, shocked them with tasers, asking them, where's the drugs, where's the money, and had the children lined up on the couch, sitting there watching in the middle of the night, through no choice of their own, the environment that they were living in. Yes, we have to remove many children from their homes as a result of substance abuse. So total, we had 265, or 62.4% of our children were sheltered this past year, exposure to substance misuse. And of those 265, 97, or 36.6%, were exposed to opiates and heroin. And some of those families had multiple substance abuses. So how old were these children? What's the impact going to be on their life? Look at that, 32 were less than 1, 32 were 1 year to 5. And they're most vulnerable at that time. They have no one to really help them. They have no way to get help for themselves. But on a personal note, these are two specific cases that happened in our county. In February of 2015, in a motel room here in Manatee County, a father was overdosing. He was seizing. He was dying. The mother left these two children, ages 2 and 4, in a motel room while she went to get help, left them in the room with the father that was dying, and when help arrived, you could hear the 4-year-old yelling through the door, "Mommy, Daddy's dying." 4 years old, having to experience that. Both of them tested positive for drugs. As you can see, Mom tested positive for a multiple listing of drugs. Second case, in May of this year, in the backyard, the father is overdosing, found by garbage men that were collecting garbage that day. That's what saved his life. He's 37, Mom's 37. The children are 1.5 and 3 months old. This same father overdosed in January, February, and March. This is his 4th overdose, saved by Narcan, 4th. The mother was positive for cocaine and said that she had just shot up. And the father tried to use his child's urine to substitute for his drug test that morning. I'm happy to say that both of them ended up arrested. This is a picture drawn by children depicting what their life is like in this circumstance. And I want to show you and let you hear what this infant sounds like that's addicted to drugs at birth. Uncontrollable crying. You can't, and unconsolable crying. No matter what they're doing, they can't console that child. That child's addicted. So the tragic thing for that child is who knows what its future is going to hold. It's probably going to be removed from home, placed with another family. But genetically, will this child be predisposed to an addiction itself? Prematurely born? How about this child that obtained some meth chemicals and received a burn? The parents were producing meth in their home. How about children when we serve our search warrants present in the home environment? Does it have an effect on them living in that home? Absolutely. Can you just imagine what it would have been like for these children when the sheriff's office SWAT team comes in? We might not have known that they were in there, and we throw a flashbang in, or we're entering, because it's very dangerous. There's firearms in these homes, and we have to use SWAT to do our search warrant entries. And these children sometimes are in these home settings. Certainly, if we know that they're present, we're going to try to do a different type of an entry or an enter one when they're not present. But it's very difficult for law enforcement. So we have our child protective folks. I have some of them here in the room today, and I want you all to stand because they're on the front lines dealing with these children that are exposed every day. So would you give them a hand? Thank you. So when these children come out of these circumstances, they're in need of so much counseling and placement and so forth. So yes, there's a huge, huge problem within our community today. So when we look at how are we going to solve this, we've got prevention efforts going on through our PSAs, which I was really happy to see some really great PSAs for young people on the Manatee County Substance Abuse Coalition's website. It was wonderful. In our communities and in our schools, we're moving forward to take prevention efforts, and I'm so happy to see them add prevention into the title. It's so important. How about education and awareness in our community and schools? That's what we're doing right now. We're making you aware of what the problem is so that we can work together and collaborate together to stop this. The rehab programs. We need inpatient and outpatient, and our resources are very, very stressed right now. They're almost down to the bare bones, and there's so many people in need. And I see Mary Ruiz here, and she knows what that need is and how great it is. But I'm happy to hear that there are some funds that are coming in that maybe is going to be some help to our community in this area. Child protection, certainly the programs that we have and the removals that we do to place these children. There are really not enough good homes right now. We need great foster homes, so we need people to step up to the plate and help us in our foster homes because we've removed so many children. How about the pressure for EMS and fire rescue? They're doing life-saving procedures and transporting these individuals after they've been Narcaned and their lives have been saved. The hospitals are at crisis capacity. They stabilize these folks, and then I can only imagine what the impact will be on the wait time if somebody shows up at the emergency room. Well, if we continue to have this level of Narcan and this level of folks that are brought into the emergency room, it's going to have an impact on our community. And certainly with law enforcement, it's our responsibility to identify, arrest, do our long-term investigations, and make a case for successful prosecution. So what are the solutions? I mean, we've talked a lot and we've looked at a lot, and you've heard some real sad situations here. So there's no one single solution. There's no one single agency that we can point at and say, it's your responsibility to do this, it's your responsibility to do that. But this is a community problem, and there are community solutions. So we all play a part in this, and I think that the funding, as we sit at the table at the opioid task force and we talk about solutions, was so happy to hear today that we're getting funding, and some of those solutions are actually going to start to become a reality in our community, and we'll be moving forward. But 30 years ago, Kiki Camarena gave his life in the war against drugs. The battle continues. So I think it's time that we all do our part. I really appreciate the fact that you allowed me to speak to you today in regards to this issue. Thank you very much.
Connie, thank you so much, and we just want to give you just a little token of our appreciation for sharing all the information with us this morning. I think that for people that are not around you, they don't truly know the passion that you have. You really are the voice for so many that cannot speak, and the defender for so many that cannot fight. So this is a Together We Can pin. We hope that you will remember us, especially after you retire and you move to the Bahamas or wherever you're going. So thank you so much for everything. Once again, we need to understand that this is a community problem. Law enforcement cannot arrest themselves out of this issue. It has to be all of us together working and fighting for our children and for our community. When you look at that table right there, and you look at these young people that are out there trying to make a difference every single day, that's what gives us hope. If you lose hope, then you fail. But together, all of us in this room can and will make our community a safer place to live and to raise our children. You have to believe that, and you have to know that each one of you together can make a positive change. And I'll leave you with this, in the famous words of Helen Keller: alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. That's as simple as you can put it. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I will be scolded if I don't tell you that these pens are yours. Please take these pens that are on the table. Please take a sign that are out front if you would like to have a sign. Just remember that we need each other to make this work. We'll give you time now to network. If you want to get together, we have the room until 9 o'clock. All right, so thank you so much. Have a great day. Appreciate it.